Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper, and today it's all about reasons why you might be stagnating and how you can break free from the rut. And I think this is a really interesting topic because at this point of the year, we're mid-May at this point or approaching the summer. How are your New Year's resolutions going? And it's a really good time to take that moment of reflection and think, am I progressing in the ways I want to be progressing? Am I taking the action that I know I should be taking or want to be taking or could be taking? And if the answer is no to any of those questions or thoughts, then you have come to the right place, because today we are going to help you break free from the rut. And I know all about the rut. I lived in the rut, believe me. And for years, I felt like I was stagnating, and I have learned how to break free from that feeling of I'm not progressing towards my goals. And today we are back doing a solo episode, and I'm so excited to be doing that because we've had so many guests on. I can't believe how many guests I've had on, actually. I did a post at the start of May doing a recap for April's guests, and I had to actually split the post in half because I'd done so many guests. So that's been really cool, really great. I've had some amazing conversations, but I really want to do one guest a week and one coaching a week, which is what this is. So you get a dose of me and a guest. I think that's a really good combination. And we are channeling towards the 50 episode mark, which is madness. I think this will be episode 32. Should be, if I've got my days right. And we are booked up, man. We are booked up. I'm not taking any more guests at the moment. So I'm basically having a month off from doing guest interviews because I've got so many filmed already and they are ready to go, and I need to catch up in terms of putting them out and sharing them with you all. So yeah, it's a really exciting time. But if I take you back even just 6 months, 6 to 12 months, this topic of stagnation would have really, really hit home. And not feeling like you're progressing, maybe you're not in the shape physically you want to be in, maybe emotionally you're not where you want to be. Maybe you've had big ambitions, but you haven't really acted on them. Maybe you feel like you are just stuck and you don't know how to drag yourself into where you want to be. So this is going to really help you today, and I'm so excited to get into it. So have a think initially, how are those New Year's resolutions looking? Because they're the first things to go on there. I had 3 New Year's resolutions this year. And, well, not so much resolutions, but goals. And they were start a business, they were start a podcast, and progress my acting career. And I suppose you could add on to that as well, lose a bit of weight and get into some good shape. So I think I've really taken some good action on most of those now, but there could always be more. And the thing that you want to do is action. That is the golden thread that runs through every podcast I have ever done. The answer to all of your problems is action. And I often reflect back at times when I have felt like I'm stagnating or I felt like I was in a rut. And it's because I was running away from taking action. It's the same with depression. It's the same with anxiety. It's the same with having moments where you just feel lost. If you hold yourself in that state, you will continue to feel those things. And it wasn't until I started to take some action in terms of starting to record podcasts and started to outline the business I wanted to create and started to track my calories and, practical things. It wasn't until then that my panic attacks stopped. And it wasn't until then that my anxiety started to slow down. I started to get a handle on it. And also, I dropped my caffeine. I'm 6 weeks into that as well. So it's all about taking that action to drag yourself out of the rut. But that would be the first thing I would ask you to reflect on as well. You've thought about your New Year's resolutions. How are they going? Or the goals that you set? Are you progressing towards them? And the second part of what action have you taken so far in 2024? And a good indicator of how your goals are going is by the action that you may or may not have taken. So are you the type of person who just writes goals out, but then doesn't really know how to get to them? That's okay. At least you are having some goals. Or are you the person who just hasn't set goals or hasn't taken the time to reflect or set those goals, and you still feel like you're in a rut? You feel like your life's not going anywhere. Maybe it's time that you started to think about how you could progress. Because remember, a basic human need is that we need to feel like we're contributing or progressing and developing in our lives and growing. If you just stop doing those things and just stay in the job that you have been in for 10 years, or you stop trying to learn about new things, eventually you will most likely feel unfulfilled because you aren't progressing and you aren't growing. Some people aren't like that. The majority are, but there are a few anomalies where they're quite happy being in that bubble of stagnation. But for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you if you're listening to this, it is not for you. We're all about being unstoppable introverts on this podcast, and it's all about taking that action and becoming unstoppable. So have a little think about, those feelings. Do you feel like you are stagnating? Firstly, are you getting after the things that you want to be getting after? Are you starting the business? Are you losing the weight? Are you taking that opportunity to apply for that job? It's a frustrating sensation, isn't it? It's akin to being stuck in the mud with no way out. Another feeling or situation which was compared to is it's like being in a well. So if you imagine you've fallen down a well, and if you don't know what a well is, it's like a big chimney that is in the ground where in the olden days it used to fill up with water, and that's how we used to get water. So it's muddy at the bottom, it's slippery, it's squishy, it's a bit wet, and up the sides, because of the wetness and the damp, it is covered in slime and moss and slippery things. So being able to get out of a well is a challenge. You can't grip onto anything. You can't climb up. You're helpless, and you are just hopelessly sunk in this well thinking, how am I going to get out of this? That is what stagnation and being in a rut feels like. But here's the truth. Feeling stuck doesn't have to be permanent. Progress is within reach, and it's the key to unlocking your happiness. So think about that well. You can eventually climb your way out. If you think about that Batman scene where Christian Bale leaps across the gaping hole and he clambers out of this massive, massive well, or it's more like a pit, to be honest, and he is able to get out. It's exactly like that. And, you have a superhero inside of you as well, for all the Batman references that people got there. But have a little think. If you're not sure why you are stagnating, here is a couple of ideas that might help give you some clarity. So the first one's your physical state. So your physiology, the way you're put together, influences your emotions, and it does that more than we realize. So by doing little things like changing your posture, how you sit, how you stand, and engaging in exercise, weightlifting, HIIT training, daily walks, getting your steps in, you can really shift your mental state and break free from negative patterns. And remember, great physiology leads to great emotions, and that paves the way for progress. And that always takes me back to when I'm feeling at my best and most confident, and then I'm grinding and I'm loving it and I'm working hard. And it is when I'm in my best shape for sure. Now, during my life, I have put on weight when I've been stressed and unable to cope with the work demands or the situations I've found myself in. And there is a correlation between me feeling stuck and stagnated and in a rut and panicked about the situation and the being overweight. There is definitely a correlation. And, you know, if you go back to my origin story, if you like, in 2017 when I was morbidly obese and 80 pounds overweight, I was completely lost, purposeless, and I wouldn't leave the house. I just felt horrendous. I didn't see a future in terms of finishing my PhD. I didn't see a future in starting a business. I didn't see a future in getting a job again. And that was mainly down to my physical state. Now, what happened in that situation was I got made redundant. And then I was so upset about that, I ate my feelings, which led me to feel like I couldn't ever work again or get a good job or start a business. So it was a bit like a cycle that I found myself in. But what I did then find when I started to lose weight, I started to exercise, I started to work on my mindset a little bit, is that I suddenly had ideas. I was putting job applications in. I was seeing myself in different roles. I was thinking about new businesses to start. And in that year, I think I started 3. So it's really interesting how your physical state determines how productive you are and how good you feel about yourself and how you feel about chasing your dreams and your goals. And even me now, I've lost about a stone since the start of the year. I didn't have too much to lose, but I did want to tighten up a little bit and to get into some better habits. And even by doing that, I've obviously started to pump out the podcast. I've started a new business, Lunala AI. I've started to go to some networking events. I've started to network online a lot better. I've started to be happier around the house. I've started to apply for acting roles again after kind of thinking that door was shut to me. I've reopened it and thought, actually, you know what? I would really desperately love to act more. And all of that happened in the last 4 months because this all started for me at the end of January. So I've had February, March, and April, and it's now the start of May. So 3 and a bit months, I've taken a lot of action. Now, this isn't really about me. It's more about trying to show you what you can do if you get a handle on your physical state. Something that we do a lot as humans, and I, again, do this a lot, as is displayed by my journey. When things get tough and things get pressurized, we go back to what makes us comfortable. Sitting in front of the TV, watching Netflix, ordering that takeaway because we're too tired to cook, skipping exercises because we're too tired. Ironically, it's that stuff that you're skipping that is going to be the thing that helps deal with your stress and will help you feel like you're progressing. And again, ironically, that all of those things that I just mentioned in a negative light will lead to you putting on weight, feeling awful, stagnating, being back in that rut. So I've got a really interesting time coming up in terms of these things that I'm trying to do. And it's going to be a real challenge for me to stay on top of my physical state. Now, if I want to train during the day, it's going to have to be between 5 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. because of the time Laura leaves to go to work. Or I could work out at lunchtime, perhaps, but mostly it's going to be an early morning slot. Now, that starts your day incredibly well, but it's really hard to get up at that time as well, say 4:30 in the morning, to go to the gym. But as hard as it may be, it will lead to easier things later on. It will make me feel better about myself. It will help me stay motivated. I'll be proud of how I'm looking. And when I reflect back on being morbidly obese, thinking about my physical state, it's hard to believe that I was the best part of 6 stone heavier than I am now. So yeah, really crazy. But I'm digressing too much here. But have a think about your physical state. Can you incorporate workouts? Do you need to lose some weight to feel better about yourself? Or even just be a bit more active to make sure that you are in a place where you have loads of energy and you're ready to go? The second one is being trapped in time. And this is where you spend too much time focusing on the past or the future, which again can leave us almost paralyzed in the middle. I'm looking back, I'm looking forward, but I'm not really doing anything to deal with that now in the middle. And the power to create change actually lies in the present. And what I would advise is, instead of dwelling on what could have been or what might have been, try and channel your energy into the here and now, where real progress happens. And again, I talk to you through the lens of someone who has done and does these things. So it's all about learning together and trying to apply these tools in a way that helps lead you to feeling unstoppable and helps you to, really achieving success in the things that you want to achieve. So if I take you back to my own journey, some of the things that I did spend a lot of time thinking about is my time as an academy footballer and the lessons that I learned there. I see players I used to play with who are professionals and are doing the dream, living my dream. And it takes you back to that moment every time you see them on TV and you think, oh, could that have been me if I'd applied myself differently, or I had a different bit of luck perhaps, or a different moment had happened? Maybe, but it is in the past, so it doesn't really matter. And if I'm being completely honest, the life I'm living now is incredibly fulfilling. I've met my wife. We have our beautiful girls. We've got some amazing things coming up in the future that I'm so excited to share with you soon. So it's not a regret that didn't work out, but it is that moment of, oh, am I doing the things I should be doing? Do I wish that I'd be in my life? And that is something I had a great conversation with James Roffey, who is going to be a guest next week, episode 33. And he talked about how being released from Charlton Athletic as a junior footballer, as an academy prospect, really affected him as well. And it led to all sorts of different things. But I don't want to spoil his story next week. But it's a real thing that if you look back too much, it can really affect you in a negative way. And it can change how you see yourself, because I spent a lot of time thinking of myself as a failed footballer until I was about 25, where I'd look back and the only thing that I could hang my hat on was that I had got released from an academy and all I was known for was being a football player. So add those two things together. I wasn't a professional footballer. I was a failed footballer. So having that on your shoulders is quite hard and quite tough to take. But if we flip it forward to the future, yes, I believe in projections and manifestations and thinking about the life you want. I think that really gives you the energy to go and attack your life now because of the things you've been thinking about. Maybe you've got a mood board or a vision board, that type of thing. I have a picture of the house that Laura and I are going to buy on my laptop that I look at. That type of thing where I just glance at it now and again. If I don't feel like doing the task at hand, I look at the house and think, right, would the person who's going to buy that house not do this task? And the answer is they would always do the task. So it's a real good motivator. But if you spend too much time thinking about the things that you're going to do, you end up never getting around to doing them. And that in itself is being trapped. you're spending too much time thinking of the multiple businesses. You might have spent, hours thinking about 20, 30, 40 businesses. I remember when Laura and I were living at her parents' just after we got married, and I was starting to think about starting businesses. I must have wrote about 20 to 30 businesses that I was interested in starting. I still am interested in starting multiple businesses, but it took me another 18 months to start a business. So it's a case of you thinking about how much time are you spending in the future. It's great to go and think about those things that you want, and that's great. That's actually going to help you get out the rut, but always bring yourself back to the future, and that is in the actions. Taking practical actions, executing on your goals, having a plan and actually following it through, whether it's reaching out to someone, whether it's posting about starting a business, maybe it is trying to set up a conversation with someone you want to hear from. And that is really, really powerful. It's a really powerful tool. So try not to spend too much time in the past. Try and focus on the present. Don't spend too much time in the future. Try and focus being in the present. And a last little tool, if you do like to throw yourself forward in time and think about the life that you're going to live, a really great example of how to do that was by Ed Milet, who you guys know I'm a huge fan of his. He's a real inspiration. And what he said was, go and have a moment in the future. Let me give you a bit of context first. So Ed Milet is a multi-million pound entrepreneur, motivational speaker, really great story. But he lived in a condo with his wife, and it was a situation where he had his water turned off because he couldn't pay the water bill, and they had to go shower next to a public pool. And he used to drive a car. It wasn't a Mercedes, but it was a car where you could stick a Mercedes badge on it because he couldn't afford the car he wanted. He was really struggling at one point, and he turned his life around. And one of the things him and his wife used to do was project themselves forward. And what that means is once a month or once every few months, they'd go and drive around the fancy neighborhood and say, I'm going to buy a house here. And they'd pick out the house that they were going to buy. And I think he actually bought the house that he was hoping to buy, which is a crazy, crazy journey. And another example is that he would go and spend a night in I don't know if it was like a Hilton hotel or a really expensive hotel in America, basically. And they'd spend one night there. They'd have a taste of that life. And then they'd come back and feel revitalized and go after their goals again. And then the other one he talks about is going to a country club and playing golf. So if you're a golfer, you go, you spend the day there, you pay the couple of £100 for the day membership. And then obviously these memberships are like £250,000 a year. But you can go for a day, get a taste of it, and come back and think, right, that is something I'm going to aim for in the future. So have a think about what your future might be. Go and spend the day there. I run past the house that I was talking about earlier that's on my computer screen. And I run past it. I see it every time I run, and I think about it. Then I'm home and I'm grinding again. So think about what that means to you. Is it a house, or is it an experience like you're going to a golf club or going to a fancy restaurant, that type of thing? What is your example of that? And then you can start to build it into your life, and you can start to, instead of feeling trapped in time, know that you are in control of time. So the last one could be plateauing. Now, some people, the annoying people, seem to effortlessly achieve breakthroughs, while others, possibly you and me, feel like we remain stuck. The difference lies in their determination to overcome those plateaus. By digging deep and seeking answers, you can really push the barriers or push through the barriers and propel yourself forward. Now, what this means is you need to have a really good look at yourself in the mirror, and you need to eyeball yourself and really get a good understanding of where you're at, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, what you actually want, and then you need to go and get it. And there comes a moment where you have that look in the mirror, and the person who's looking back at you, you're almost disappointed with. I've had that on multiple occasions where I have been, I mean, nothing more than when I was 6 stone overweight, 80 pounds overweight, and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I just did not recognize this person. The person who was rolling over just because they got made redundant. And now you're depressed and on medication and you're 80 pounds overweight and you won't leave the house and you're drinking multiple bottles of wine a week. It was just a moment where I knew that something had to change. And it might be that you are coming up to that moment, or it might be that you've just had that moment. But when you do have that moment, it means that you could be on the verge of a breakthrough. So if you are in that feeling of, I'm just tired, I'm tired of my situation, and some things you can look out for are that feeling of you've reached your limit and you're ready to change. Now that's called satiation. And what that means is it's that breaking point you might have heard, the rock bottom moment. So I talk about my rock bottom moment where it was Christmas 2017. I was 80 pounds overweight and I got gifted a Christmas present by my in-laws, which was lovely. It was a t-shirt, but it was a triple XL t-shirt. So it was like XXXXL. I forget how many X's, but it was the biggest t-shirt I've ever got. And I was very grateful for the present. It was the right size as well. That's how big I was. And I looked at it and I said to myself, I am never going to wear this t-shirt. I can't. If I accept that this is who I am, then who knows where this might lead me. I really don't know where that would have taken me if I just accepted my life at that moment. But little did I know, that wasn't quite my rock bottom moment. About 20 minutes later, we're around the Christmas meal. We're around the dinner table having our Christmas dinner. And I'm wearing this pink shirt and it's so tight. And I was worried one of the buttons was going to ping off and hit my father-in-law in the face. So I had to excuse myself. And guess what I had to put on? Yes. I had to put the XXXXXXXXL t-shirt on, and putting that on almost was like my moment where I was like, right, this is it. I have got to change. This is never happening again. And it hasn't happened since. And, you know, I've never put 80 pounds back on. And that was my moment where it was like, right, I'm ready for the change. So maybe you're at that. Are you at your breaking point? Can you not stand where you work because you're not appreciated? Are you so sick of not having enough money so you need to start a business? Are you just tired of the way your partner treats you and you want to get away from them? This is your moment. The next level, if there's 5 levels, is dissatisfaction. And this is where your situation no longer serves you and you crave something more fulfilling. And this is where it's more like that job example that I just gave. So maybe you're going to work. It's hard to get up every morning with the thought of it. Maybe you hate the drive in. And then when you get there, everyone's annoying. Everyone. It's irritating. You just aren't doing yourself any favors by being there, and you're not living your best life in the way that you know that you could or should be living. And it's at that moment where you might start to apply for other jobs, or you might start to think about building your business. But that dissatisfaction of a certain situation is an indicator that you might be about to break through into your new life. So I think the cool and trendy way to say that now is you've got the ick. So I've got the ick with my partner, I've got the ick with whoever, I've got the ick with the where I work. So have a think about your current situation. See if you've got the ick. And then if you have, it's time to make a change. The next one is the threshold. And this is where change becomes non-negotiable. It's driven by an urgent need or circumstance. And this is where you are really starting to make the change that you wanted to achieve. And this is things like, for me, when I was doing my weight loss transformation, it was doing the exercise, counting my calories, getting enough water, hitting the weights, getting my steps in, and also starting to do my mindset work as well. So that is an example of where it's change is happening, whether you like it or not. We've got to breach the threshold, and we are, well, I tell you what, in my example, what I'd probably say is the satiation of that first t-shirt where I got, and I said, you know what, I'm never going to wear this. That's where I'd reached my limit and I was ready for a change. I'd then hit the threshold when I had to go and put it on, and I was like, this is non-negotiable. Change is definitely happening and I need to change urgently. So that's how I work through that spectrum. The next one is insight. And this is a newfound understanding. A newfound understanding opens your eyes to new possibilities. So take me, for example, again, with my Lunala AI business. I started out just wanting to learn about AI. It fascinated me. I was really interested in it. I enjoyed having a go at it and practically applying it. And that opened my eyes to, oh, could this be another business idea? Because I like doing this and I like having conversations about AI. Maybe other people would like to hear what I have to say about AI, and maybe I could get charged to do that. So that insight into spending some time with AI provided me with this opportunity to start Lunala AI. So yeah, have a think about, what are you doing at the moment? Are you still learning new things? Are you going to different experiences? Are you trying to develop as a person? Because that quite often can lead to developing a skill set that other people want to learn as well, and then you can teach them. So have a little think about your current situation. That's sometimes a useful one to figure out where your opportunities may lie. And then lastly, number 5 is opening. And this is where opportunities present themselves and you are ready to seize them. And this is a really cool one because it's a little bit like manifestations, where you're thinking about what you want and it arrives, a little bit like The Secret, but it's really your reticulating activator system working overtime, which is where your brain is now consciously looking for the things you are now thinking about. And when those things are positive and they're opportunities, then guess what? You're going to start to see those opportunities. So for me, that will be when I start to get invited to do talks around AI, or invited to do different gigs, that type of thing. So that hasn't happened yet. I've done those in the past, but I've been very much in my bubble the last 12 to 18 months. And now I'm really ready to get after it. I want to be speaking on stages. I want to be speaking at corporate events. I want to be working with hundreds, thousands of people. And that is now what I'm looking for. And when someone gets in touch and says, could you talk to us about AI and peak performance? Guess what? I'm going to be ready to go and do that, because that is what I've been developing over the past, well, all my life, certainly the peak performance, but also it's what I'm looking for now. And when those two things pair up, the openings provide themselves. So I really hope that has helped. And I really hope that you are in a position to go and think about those 5 different indicators. But the main thing here, as always, is take action. Reclaim your power by taking concrete steps to change your state. Start by changing your physiology. We can sit up straighter, we can stand taller, we can exercise, we can weightlift. Nourish your body and mind with healthy habits, things like nutrition, meditation, gratitude practices, reframing, and then challenge your negative thought patterns by changing that language and allowing your RES to work for you and to provide those opportunities for you as well. And of course, just keep in mind who you're surrounding yourself with as well. Should always be really supportive, positive relationships. And remember, progress is a bit corny, but progress is a journey. It's not a destination. It's something that's going to happen all the time. We're always learning, growing, developing. And by refusing to give up and by embracing change, you can literally overcome any obstacle life throws your way. And I'm so excited for you to go and do that. And the power to transform your life is within you. So I hope this has been helpful today. I hope you're enjoying the episodes. Feel free to message me anytime on Instagram. I love getting messages about the podcast or questions. If I can help, I definitely will. You can follow me on all platforms at Dr. David Hooper. And you can find me on YouTube and also Spotify as well. Please like and subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating if you don't mind as well. It helps the channel grow and it means we can help as many introverts as possible. So thank you so much for listening. And remember, your introversion isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that is going to catapult you towards your major breakthrough. Until next time, stay unstoppable.